Welcome to the Fancy Apron Kitchen. Today we are making cheesecake out on our Traeger Grill. It comes out perfectly every single time. The flavor is perfection. It's the only way I will make cheesecake out on the Traeger. Let's go. The first step is going to be to make and bake our crust. I like baking it ahead of time. I think it gives us a much better texture. Some recipes for a Traeger cheesecake don't ask you to do that, but we're going to do that and you're going to have a better cheesecake for it. So I have a 9-inch springform pan that's lined with parchment paper. That's going to make this easier for serving, and I'll show you that later. First, let's mix up our crust ingredients. To make this crust, you're going to need 12 graham cracker sheets. You can crush them up by hand like I'm doing, or you can toss them into a food processor to get a fine crumb. Okay. After you've beautifully crushed up your graham crackers, you're going to end up with about 2 cups of graham cracker crumbs. Those are going to go into a stand mixer. You can do this in a bowl and mix by hand yourself, or you can let your stand mixer do the work. That's a 1/4 cup of brown sugar. And then we're going to do 5 tablespoons of melted butter. We're going to mix this with the paddle attachment until it totally comes together and it's all one consistency. Hold your paper down. I'm going to take this glass. It's got a super flat bottom. You can, and we're going to press this together. This looks good. Let's go bake it. You're going to bake your crust for about 10 to 12 minutes at 350 degrees until the edges get a little golden brown, and then you're going to lower the temperature to 300 to cook the cheesecake. So let's go ahead and get into this mixer and make our cheesecake batter. All right, to the bowl of my stand mixer, I'm going to add, oh my God, that was a close one, 5 8-ounce blocks of cream cheese. Paddle attachment on. And we're going to start mixing these first to loosen them up, and then we'll add everything else in. After you use the paddle attachment to loosen up the cream cheese, scrape down the sides of the bowl before you add the next ingredient. For that, we're going to add 1 cup of granulated sugar. Next up, we are going to mix in 1/2 cup of sour cream. Lastly, we are going to add our 5 whole eggs, and we're going to add 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. It's important to use a low speed when you're mixing the batter and that you use room temperature ingredients. Over-mixing the batter will produce too many air bubbles in your filling. Okay, everything's mixed beautifully. Confident in our batter. No cheesecake left behind. I think this looks good, so we're going to pour it into our crust. After you pour all of the cheesecake batter into the springform pan, give it a jiggle and tap the edges to smooth out the top. These next 2 steps are pretty important. You're going to take a large foil sheet and wrap that around your springform pan. That's because when we're cooking this in the water bath, there is a possibility that water could seep in and ruin our crust. So we're going to wrap with foil, put it in a nice big pan that's going to hold our water bath. Cooking the cheesecake out on our Traeger at a low temperature of 300 degrees with the water bath is going to give us that beautiful, perfectly smooth top with no cracks in our cheesecake. Okay, for me, this is actually the hardest part, is not checking on it. It's in there, it's cooking, 300 degrees. It's going to go for 90 minutes. At the 90-minute mark, I'm going to come jiggle the pan a little bit and see if we're pretty set. There's going to be a little bit of movement, but for the most part, it's not going to look like liquid anymore. So the hard part is not checking and opening up the lid. You can't do it. It's got to do its thing in there so that we've got a beautiful top. The end, it's going to be worth it. You'll see. When I first checked the cheesecake at the 90-minute mark, it wasn't quite done, so I gave it an extra 10 minutes, and then it was perfect. This is the payoff, a beautiful, perfectly smooth cheesecake. You're going to cover this with plastic wrap and pop it in the fridge, and then you're going to come back to it in 24 hours and unveil it. The cheesecake has had 24 hours to chill in the refrigerator, and I'm going to show you how we're going to get it out of the springform pan and cut into it. I'm going to take a knife and I'm going to go around the edges first. All right. Look at that. Totally smooth all the way around. Oh, we are already on our cutting board. Our parchment paper has set us up for success. Ta-da. All right. This is everything I was hoping for. I can't wait for you to make it. We need to finish strong with a little bourbon caramel sauce. We're just going to take a little bit of the sauce and drizzle. Oh, yes. You know, the last step is to try a bite. Make sure that it's really as good as I was hoping it was. Crust check. Okay, we've got to make sure that our graham cracker crust came out. It's so good. When you make this, everyone at your dinner, your party, your special occasion, your holiday, they're going to be so amazed with you that you made something this good. I promise. Okay, so a couple resources for you. The recipe card and blog post for the cheesecake, the caramel sauce, those are in the description below, along with a link to grab the right size springform pan so that you can make this out on your Traeger. Last but not least, I want you to subscribe so you can come back and see the video that I make for the bourbon caramel sauce. It's going to go with it along with all of my other easy Traeger recipes that are going to help you out in your kitchen.